we're going to create a small table using OnShape to design a number of options, choose between them, and then create cutting templates. Our learning intentions are the application of CAD in a design project. We're going to create a base design. We're going to manipulate that design to create design options, and then once we've made our decision, we're going to create cutting templates. Step 1 is to create the base design. We have a number of pieces of material and we're going to create a design that uses the full amount of that material so that we can then use options to cut away from and rotate those various pieces in order to create a final design. So here we are in OnShape and we're going to start by creating a new document. Our document is going to be called Small Table Base Design, and we're going to click on OK. Once we're in OnShape, it loads and we're going to create straight away our tabletop. Our tabletop is going to use the maximum amount of timber, so we're going to draw it on the top. So we're going to move our mouse over until top is highlighted. We're going to click on that to accept that sketch 1. We're going to look at the top view, making sure that we don't press tick or X until we're finished, and we're going to draw out our basic square. I'm going to draw my square out just a bit off center, and we're going to center it using constraints and construction lines. I'm going to draw a construction line by pressing on the line tool and the construction tool, making sure that they're both highlighted blue. I'm going to move my mouse over the top until I find the square in the middle, which is actually the midpoint, and I'm going to lock it from midpoint to midpoint across the square. You can also do it from midpoint to midpoint down the square. I'm then going to use the midpoint constraint to click on the line, the construction line I just drew, and the midpoint of the whole screen to lock that into position. I'm also going to use the equal constraint to make this side and this side equal because it's going to be a square. And I'm going to use the dimension tool to set the final dimension, which from the maximum material size is 380 millimeters. Pressing enter. It's going to be a large piece, so I'm going to zoom out until I can see the whole thing. I'm happy with that, so I'm going to press the tick button. I'm going to rotate it until I can get a 3D-ish looking view. I'm going to then press the extrude button, click on the square that I just drew, and make the distance 19 millimeters. I'm going to click on that tick to accept that, and I'm going to right click over here and hit rename and call this the top, and press enter. Now that I have the top, I'm going to create my cross members. I'm going to tick in or look at it from underneath, and I'm going to draw a sketch on the bottom, and I'm going to look at the sketch from the bottom view. I'm going to draw in a rectangle, and that rectangle is going to be from here to here. I'm going to draw it a little bit off center so that I can use the same technique, line tool, construction tool, and go from center point across to center point, and then use the center point construction or midpoint construction tool to actually constrain that to lock it to the middle. I'm now going to use the dimension tool to change this size to 19, which is the thickness of our timber, and we're going to change the dimension tool of this side to be 200, which is the defined size in the design brief. I'm then going to press on tick to actually move that out, and I'm going to use the extrude tool on that rectangle, and I'm going to extrude it out 80, which is the width of our cross member material according to the design criteria, and I'm going to click on new so that it's a new piece of timber. You'll note that the piece of timber is actually set up a different color, which means it's definitely a separate piece of material. And in here we have part 2, which is going to be called cross member, so I'm going to rename that to be cross member. At this point, we're going to do some copying. I'm going to press enter to select that. We're going to do some copying or some patterning because this particular item works in patterns. So I'm going to draw in a sketch, and I'm going to draw in a circle because we're going to use the circle pattern. I'm going to draw it on the base of the top, so the underside of the top, and I'm going to draw a circle looking from the bottom, starting from that midpoint, so locking it to that midpoint and moving out to the side so it's touching the side, and I'm going to use a construction tool on that. So I need to actually press escape, click on that, and press on the construction tool. So that's now a construction line, it won't bother me. And I'm going to right click over, or actually click on here to rename the sketch, and this is going to be my circle pattern sketch. So my circle pattern sketch is going to be there. The first circle pattern I'm going to apply, and the circle pattern is here, and then in circular pattern, so it's now there. I'm going to click on this particular item here as my entity to actually put in the pattern. My axis of pattern, so I'm going to click on here to make that blue, is going to be this circle here, and I'm going to have 4 of them, 2 of them actually. So I'm going to press on tick, and I now have 2. I should have 2. Oh, hang on. Let's just double click back into that pattern. I don't want to do a 360, I want to do a 180. And then press tick. My bad, it's a 90. There we go. Got to think about these things. So it's going to rotate this one 90 degrees and copy it, basically. So the next thing I'm going to do before I do anything else is I'm going to turn off that extra part. I'm going to turn off the top, and I'm going to do my cross halving joint. My cross halving joint is basically going to be a slot joint from one cross member to the other. So I'm going to draw in that slot, draw it on that side, and press the back tool. I'm going to draw a rectangle. I'm going to draw it away from everything else over here, but it is locked to the top of this. Now that I've got that, I'm going to use the line tool and construction tool to go from the midpoint here to the midpoint of this line here, and then I'm going to use the vertical tool to make that line vertical, which will lock that slot to the midpoint. I'm then going to do the similar sort of thing, line tool, construction tool, and go from this corner point here to this midpoint here, and I'm going to use the vertical or horizontal, tool to actually lock that down, so it's going to go halfway down. I'm then going to finally set the dimension to be the width of my timber of 19 mils, and press enter. Press tick to accept that sketch, and then look at this from an angle, and I'm going to extrude this particular part here. I'm going to remove it, and I'm going to remove it through all, just to be sure, and press tick. So I now have that part there. I'm going to turn the other cross member back on, and I'm going to apply something called a boolean, and the boolean is going to be a subtractive boolean. My tool is going to be the part, the cross member that I've already made. My target is going to be the new part that I haven't named yet, and I'm going to keep the tools. You can see it's going to cut that out, and it's going to leave that cut there. So I'm going to keep the tools and press tick. I now have my top and cross member, 2 cross members in place. It's now finally time to draw the legs, and the legs are going to basically be drawn using a rectangle tool on the bottom. So I'm going to draw a sketch on here. I'm going to look at it from the bottom view, and I'm going to draw a rectangle. I'm going to lock it from this little point here, and I'm going to draw it across. Let's just draw it across to here for the time being, and lock it to this line, making sure I don't lock it to the midpoint or anything like that. Just lock it to there, like so. I'm then going to use the coincidence tool to lock this point and this point here. No, this point. No, sorry. It won't let me do that. So let me use instead the horizontal tool to make this and this one horizontal. Same thing, just a different method of achieving it. I've done that now. I'm going to press tick on that, and now this is going to be my leg. So I'm going to basically extrude this out, this leg, and I'm going to extrude this out 350 millimeters. Making sure it's a new part, I'm going to press tick, and that's going to draw out a different colored part to the other 3 parts. So that is my leg. Let's actually right click on that and actually rename it straight away as leg so that we don't lose that part. I'm in the habit of leaving copied parts as just part 3 or whatever it is. So now we're going to use that circular pattern tool again. I'm going to turn it back on, and I'm going to use the circular pattern. I'm going to add the entities. This one is my leg. This time the axis of pattern is going to be that circular pattern tool there, and it's going to go all the way around, all four this time, with 360 degrees of rotation, and I'm going to press on tick, and that's going to create for me my legs. I'm now going to actually turn that circle pattern sketch off because I don't need it anymore, and let's look at that from a top view. That is my base table design. We're now up to step 2, option 1. You don't have to complete this option, although you will sort of have to do this anyway. It's what we call cutout manipulation, and you can see here in this diagram that I've got in every slide that we've got a different sort of appearance. We've got a circle cut out on the top, and we've got some wavy legs happening. So let's actually see what we can do in order to create that sort of cutout manipulation in OnShape. So we're in our OnShape again, and we're back in the main screen. I'm going to right click on the base design, and I'm going to copy that workspace. I'm going to copy that workspace as, let's just call it option 1. You're going to create 3 options, and I'm going to press on OK. So option 1 is going to be my first design that I'm going to try for my table to see what I think it looks like. So you can see here that I've got my base design ready, but anything I do now will be saved as option 1. First thing I'm going to do is manipulate the table top, but if I manipulate the table from the top, I won't be able to see what I'm doing, so I'm actually going to manipulate it from underneath. And if I manipulate the sketch, so I'm going to create a sketch underneath it and look at it from the bottom, I can take away anything around here that sort of I want to take out to get the style going. So I'm going to, for example, go for a corner rectangle. No, I'm going to go for a line tool here. I'm going to make a bit more of an angular design. So I'm going to click on this and maybe play around with that and do the same thing here. Just, I'm doing it roughly. Just roughly playing around. Obviously, you want to spend a bit more time getting your patterns right. But I'm sort of having a bit of a go around. And from there to there, that's actually joining that off. And you can play around with curves, lines, circles, that sort of stuff. And I'm going to press tick on that. And now I'm going to basically use the extrude tool to take away all the bits. I'll just click on remove so I know I'm doing it straight away. So on this thing here, it needs to be selected as remove. All the faces you want to remove are there. You probably want to change this to through all. You want to make sure that top is selected in the merge scope and press on tick. And now if I look at this from the top view, you'll see that I've got a weird looking table. Not sure I like that very much, but hey, it's something to actually use. So I've got that option there. I'm going to look at this from a few different angles, and yep, that is an option. Let's do the same thing with a leg. First things first, I'm going to click on and select those 3 parts. So I pressed on the top one, I pressed and hold shift and on this one, and then I'm going to delete, and it's going to ask me to delete all parts and press on tick. So I'm only going to be working with that one leg. There it is there. And I'm going to continue my angular theme. I'm going to go sketch here. Now I need to have it joining between here and here, so I don't want to get rid of too much stuff there. So let's just go with the angular theme of going like so. Like that. I'm going to press escape and start a new line over this side. Probably go from there up to about there. We go straight to here, and then just cut in like that, just to be different. And press escape. And now I'm going to press tick on that sketch. I'm going to extrude away the parts. There and there and there, like so. And I'm going to basically hit remove, and the merge scope disappeared. It sometimes does that, so I'm going to click on the leg to make sure I'm getting rid of the parts of the leg. and that should be through all, and press tick. There we go. So I'm getting rid of that leg, and now I need to do the circle pattern thing again. So I need to actually find my circle pattern sketch, and I'm going to use the circle pattern tool on that leg, and I'm going to use the axis of pattern to be that circle sketch, and there we have it, a weird looking sort of table. So that is one option that we could use in order to create our design. You can change that, you can play around with different ideas, but that's an option certainly. Not that I like that very much. Just going to make it look a little bit better. Let's get rid of that pattern tool there, and let's hide these guys here, here, and here, and get rid of the origin. And now I can definitely have a better look at that and see what I think. So step 2, option 2, so this is the second option, is a bit of rotational manipulation, and this will basically require that you create some cutting out as well, but it's a little bit different. You need to do the cutting out that I show you in this option before you do any fancy sort of shaping cutting out. This is just to make it work. So rotational manipulation just involves rotating the legs out at a bit of an angle. So we're back in the OnShape main page again, and we're going to right click on our base design, and we're going to copy our workspace. Copying our workspace creates design option 2, and press on OK. Design option 2 will enable us to create a slight rotation in the legs, just getting them to splay out a bit, which will add to the stability of the table. First thing I'm going to do once again is I'm going to press on part 5 and press and hold shift on part 7, and I'm going to right click and delete those parts and press tick. They're all gone now, and I'm now going to look at this from the front view. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the top and the 2 cross members so I can't see them, and click on front view again, which will move that a little bit into the center. And then I'm going to choose the transform tool. I'm going to choose transform by rotation, and I'm going to click on the part that I want to rotate. While I'm looking at this view, I'm going to click on the front view, and I'm going to zoom up right here, and the axis that I'm going to rotate it around is this particular one here. Let's click back on front view, and that's obviously wrong. If I turn my cross member and parts back on again, the tabletop in particular, I'm going to see that that's going to rotate the wrong way. So I'm going to rotate it out here, and probably no more than 10 degrees is a good rotation. And I'm going to press on tick here. I've played around with this, and I also need to move it. So I'm going to go transform. I'm going to move this time by X, Y, and Z in this direction, and I think it's about minus 30.5. Gets me in the right position to actually have it locking up against there nicely, and I'm going to press tick. So you can see there that my leg is now rotated at the slight angle. I now need to fix this up so that I can actually have that corner, because that corner is still there. Let's get rid of that cross member. That's not going to work, so I need to get rid of that corner. So I need to create the conditions for doing that, and that's going to be using a boolean. The boolean is going to be a subtract, and the tools are going to be this cross member and the tabletop, and the target is going to be the leg. I'm going to keep the tools, and I'm going to press on the tick button. You now see if I turn the top off and the cross member off, that it's got this cut taken off here and a cut taken off there. The next thing I need to do is to actually make it so that it sits off square at the bottom. Let's just use a sketch on this particular item here and draw a line from here across to here somewhere. Noticing I've drawn it on a particular angle, I'm going to then use the horizontal tool to actually make that horizontal and press on tick. I'm then going to extrude, click on that, remove, and change this to through all, making sure that leg is still in my merge scope, and I'm going to press tick. That's going to make it square off at the bottom, and now I've got my cross member up like so. So you can see there that I've actually got that around. going to look at this from the bottom now, and I'm going to go up and turn my circle pattern sketch back on. Once my circle pattern sketch is back on, I'm going to use my circle pattern tool. I'm going to click on the leg, then I'm going to click on axis over here, and I'm going to find my circle pattern here and press tick, and you now see that I have my angular set up. I can then use the option 1 as well combined to create different shapes in order to cut this out. But that will actually make my table that little bit more stable. So step 3, design choice in OnShape. So we're going to basically, oh, there's a magpie over my head. Okay, so we're going to basically use drawings to create 3 different designs. And once we've got those drawings out, we're going to annotate it and make our final choice of what we're going to use in order to create our table. So you can see here I've got a drawing of a design, and OnShape can pretty much automatically create that for you. So it's not hard to do, it's just a few steps. So I'm going to use my option 2 as an example. You're going to create 3 options, so 3 drawings of 3 different designs in order to do your justification. So I'm going to create down here a new element, and the new element is going to be a create drawing element. I'm going to click on here. You won't see these 2 options here necessarily, but I'm going to click on this option here, and I'm going to choose A4 as my option. A4 is a good size for doing this, and I'm going to press on OK. Once I've pressed OK, it's going to set up a drawing space, and it's going to ask me to insert a view. If it doesn't do that, you need to click on Insert View, then click on Insert, and over here in this little menu that pops up, you need to click on Part Studios and click on Part Studio 1. Once it's done that, it's actually going to create a view. We're going to use the front view, and you'll notice that eventually it'll pop up as a side view or a front view of your chair design. So I'm going to click on there at about that point on the screen, and then I'm going to move my mouse up to get my second projection out of that, and that's going to be a bottom view. So that's helpful for me to see what the bottom's going to look like there. I'm going to insert a new view now from the same Part Studio, but this time I'm going to choose isometric, and I'm going to change it maybe to 1 to 5. If I click on automatic and do it then, it's going to basically enable me to draw a 3D projection of my table design. I'm going to click on there to accept that. And that's all I need to do, except I need to reorder some of the information down here. So I'm going to click on here and go title, small table, and press tick. And I'm going to click on this one down here and say, I'm going to get rid of those things. Option 2, this is option 2, and press tick. Those things there need to go as well. For some reason they're still there. Press tick. Small table option 2, and then I wonder if I can just delete that altogether. Press delete. There you go. And material is going to be pine. Tick. And the finish, I'm going to go for oil. Let's just go for oil. I'm going to oil them. And press tick. That's all we really need to fill out. It's already got your name in here and the date that you drew it on and stuff like that, so you don't need to worry about that. And there we have our tabletop. You're then going to have to print that out so you can actually annotate it. To do that, you right click on drawing 1 here and you export it. It'll give the option of exporting as a PDF. So this is going to be small table, option 2, and click on export. And at some stage it'll just download here. Obviously you need to do that for 3 tables, and then you can step back once you've made your decision. You can come back in and do the final step, which is to create the cutting templates. The final step, step 4, is to create some export templates so that we can send these to the laser cutter. The laser cutter will then cut them out of material in full size, and then you will be able to use those templates to mark out and cut your design out. So that makes it pretty straightforward and easy. Let's see how we create those templates in OnShape. So I've made my final decision. I'm actually going to go for small table option 3. So let's click into small table option 3, which you haven't seen me make yet, but there it is. So it will come up in drawing mode because that's the last thing I did with it. But I can go back to the Part Studio because I need to use the Part Studio in order to create my cutout templates. It's important that we do this step carefully. So we're going to create 3 sketches. The first sketch is going to be on the top surface of here, and we're going to create my name. Basically, I'm going to click in here and drag out a space and click and type in my name and the class that I'm in, so we don't get confused. And I like to change it to alert a stencil. Let's just make sure it is alert a stencil actually, because it just makes it better. I'm going to press tick. And that's huge. I don't want my name that big. I'm just going to basically bring it across here and make this size 10 millimeters and press enter. So that 10 millimeter cutout doesn't really matter where it is, as long as it's on here somewhere. Better having it as far away from the walls as possible. I'm going to press tick. I'm going to press extrude. I'm going to click on that to select it. I'm going to press remove, and I'm going to make it only 5 mils deep, like so. So that's the tabletop. It's got my name on it. It's a bit trickier to do the side view. Let's just actually look at this and go onto the side view here on the side of the leg. And I'm going to put in a left view here, and I'm going to go and do text, drag out an area, and put my name once again. You can't copy and paste it, unfortunately, but that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to change that to stencil, alert a stencil, and press OK. The reason why I choose alert a stencil is it's got those little gaps in here. It just makes it a bit nicer. I'm going to set my dimension once again to be 10 millimeters. In fact, if you need to, you can probably go 8. So I'm going to do 8 for this one. And you can see it's put it way up there, which is annoying. So I need to be able to move it. So to move it, see how this one here is on dimension. I need to press escape so it's no longer a dimension. And now I can zoom in. And I can click and drag it by the corner. And that will move it to roughly there. That will be fine. However, that's not good enough. I need to actually be able to rotate it. For some strange reason, rotation isn't here. I'm going to transform this, and we're going to click on this item that we're going to transform, and it's going to put this little thing here. We're going to hover over until this circle with this line going through it is selected, and we're just going to rotate it until I'm happy. There. And once I'm happy, I can type in the number there. I don't really care. It's just for marking templates. I'm going to press on the right click button to accept that change. And then I'm going to press on tick to accept that sketch. I'm going to click on extrude. This one here, remove 5 millimeters and press tick. Okay, so there it is on that one. And we're going to do the same thing on this one. I'm going to draw a sketch on this one here, like so. Put my name in it, and 10x, and I'm going to change it to alert a stencil. Press tick. It's too big. I'm going to make this 8 millimeters as well, and I'm just going to drag it, so pressing escape to get rid of that selection of there. Just drag it so that it's down here, like so. Press tick, press extrude, and go in, remove. We're going to go in 5 millimeters and press tick. Okay, so we've now got my name stamped on the 3 parts. You don't need to do all of the legs because obviously you only need to actually copy out one leg, unless you're going for the whole every leg is different thing, which is totally up to you as well, but I wouldn't necessarily do that. Now I'm going to export these. Simple matter of moving over the surface. I want to export, right clicking, choosing export as DXF, making sure that that is DXF, and this is top, and pressing export. OnShape will then download it to your downloads folder, and you do the same for all 3 surfaces, this one here and that one there with your names in it. And those are the things that you need to send into the laser cutter queue to get cut on the laser cutter. they'll come back to you most likely as cardboard, and then you can use those to mark out your pieces so that you can cut them out.